But we don't always like what He has planted. We are in so disagreement with how God plans His vineyard to produce the most fruit. That's what Israel was doing. This vineyard in chapter 5 was located in a very fruitful hill, a very high-rise and very fertile soil, very agreeable to the character Moses gave it in Deuteronomy 32:13. God chose the richest ground or plot of land of all the world. He chose the richest the plot of land, the most fertile land, the most wonderful land. Now it's been different if God says, I'm going to put you somewhere in the I'm going to put you somewhere in the Sahara Desert, or I'm going to put you somewhere in Russia. But God chose a piece of land that was the most fertile, the most gracious, and if they'd have gone in and done as God said, it would have produced some of the most wonderful time in all of history. And then one day it was going to be. God put a fence around Israel in the Old Testament. And God put the church in the New Testament. God distinguishes His people from the rest by laws, by statutes, in religion, in civil life, in diet, in conversation. God gave them all kinds of laws in the Old Testament. Every time you turn around, you can't do this, and you can't do that, and you can't do this, and you can't work on the Sabbath, and you can't go more than 15 steps, and if you see a dead person, you got to take a bath. And it was on and on and on and on, and good grief, what's next? So laws, and you can't eat this, and you can't eat that, and if you have crops, you got to do this, and if you have servants every 7 years or 50 years, you got to do this, and the human nature says, you have got to be kidding me. Lord, have mercy. You put laws on me all the time, and I can't do this, and I can't do that, and I can't do this, and so we want to do our own thing, right? Has nature changed at all?
No.
We still want to do our own things, our own way of thinking, and we're yet on God's plot of land, and we want God to bless the plot of land that He says the only way you will see the fruit of my Spirit is by doing what I say. They didn't like it. And if you didn't like it, guess what? You got stoned. After a while, he's going to lose everybody, so we got under grace. Someone said this week, he said, I go to a church of 2,000, and I come away feeling uplifted and not preached at. And I said, we've got a church of 20, and I tried. If you know the comfort, I started to say, and I was not to be sarcastic, I said, you must go to Joel Osteen's church. But I didn't say it. You will come out feeling rather good with that way, I guess. Casting out the stones. The verse tells us that what he did, he said, I'm going to cast out all the stones in the land. Isn't that good? God says, I'm going to clear the land out. My goodness, I've been trying to clear out twigs. You wouldn't believe the junk's in my backyard. Richard? Bottles, brick, cans, coffee mugs, trash, metal stuff. I mean, it's nothing but trash. It's down that hill. Barbed wire fence. Oh my goodness! And I'm having to clear it out. If I'd have known that, I'd have paid that guy $1,200. I'd have borrowed it from one of the bills and got $1,200 and let him do it. God says, I'm going to clear it out for you. I'm going to cast out the stone. And he said, but the casting out, the ancient habitation of Canaan, to make room for the children of Israel. So God says, I want you to go in, I want you to wipe out the 7 nations. The 7 nations had lived in adultery. They were the worst race of people that ever lived. And God says, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go into the land, and I want you to wipe them out, get them out. Because I want this land clean. This is for me. And so he cast out all their adultery, so they would not stumble, so thus they could be wholly turned to his service. You know, when it's hard to serve the Lord when you're so mixed up in everything else. Did you ever notice that? How hard it is to serve the Lord whenever you're so involved in everything else other than our work. God planted in this vineyard. Here's what God did in this vineyard that God planted for. Number 1, the choicest vine. The choicest vine. Number 2, the true religion. Number 3, a form of government, the purest kind of government God produced. Number 4, an excellent provision. An excellent provision. And number 5, much cultivation. Wow.
Can you repeat those?
The choicest vine, the true religion, form of government, purest kind, excellent provision, and much cultivation. God did this for Israel to go into the land.
Is it true religion or true government? What did you say?
True religion. True religion. The word religion in essence means the worship of God.
And the purest kind of what?
Government. And excellent provision. And much cultivation. Therefore, what would you expect? The best, wouldn't you? He expected production. He expected production of the best kind of grapes. If God gives you all the ingredients, wouldn't you think He would expect, I want you to produce the very best? Seems to me, wouldn't you? He got fruits of wild, uncultivated nature. Deuteronomy 32. See that now? God gave sufficient means of rendering to Him His dues. God does not expect you to give Him in return that which He has not already given you the ingredients to do it. If you follow God's ingredients, God's plan of action, you will produce for Him what He wants out of you. But instead of studying His laws, they studied how to sacrifice to their incessable lust and lewd affections. Rather than studying His laws and how to better work them out, they chose to find out how can we go and look at the Canaanites and see how they worship and how they dress and how they act and how they build buildings. And instead of looking at God's law, they got how to live like the Canaanites. Therefore, as a result, He shall take away the hedge of His vineyard and lay open the land to be trodden under feet. When you remove the hedge from around you, when you remove God's protection in your life, sometimes what we try to do as humans, we try to protect them from that. God says, let them, if that's what you want, you don't want my protection, then let it come against you. Sometimes people just have to suffer the consequences of their poor choices instead of enabling them to do it again and again and again, you know? And so, the Lord supplieth the vineyard with much. Look at Deuteronomy 15:14. Deuteronomy 15:14. Mary, you want to read that for me, please? Deuteronomy 15:14. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, 15:14, I believe.
Thou shalt furnish him liability out of thy flock, and out of thy alley, out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, thou shalt give unto thee.
God has blessed him with what, Richard? What is it? How did God bless him with what?
Give unto him
Sufficient.
Give him first him liberally out of thy flock, he shall first and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress. That was Lord, I bless me.
What's verse 9 say? 15:9. What's verse 15:9 say?
Beware there not be a thought in thy wicked heart, saying, the seventh year, the year of release in the hand, and thine eye be evil against thy poor brother, givest him not, cry unto the Lord against thee, and he sin unto thee.
God shall bless thee in all thy works. Open wide thy hand unto thy brethren. Furnish him liberally out of thy flock. Destroy all the idolaters, and only holy things is to be eaten in the holy place of God. Look at Proverbs chapter 3, verse 9 and 10. Serena? Proverbs 3, 9 and 10, yes.
Honor the Lord with thy substance, and with the first fruits of all thine increase. So shall thy barns be filled with plenty, and thy presses shall burst out with new wine.
God expected fruitfulness in his vineyard. Honor the Lord with thy substance, first fruits, so that your barns be filled with plenty. Give God the first part of the day, for instance. Don't wait till the end of the day when you're so exhausted and tired that you can hardly stay awake, right? Getting up at 4:30 in the morning and trying to stay awake listening to me teach. No wonder we need something going on. If I wasn't teaching, I would be doing the same thing. I remember watching 12. Working 12 hours at Howes Anderson. Can you go to sleep on Jack Howes? My goodness! If I didn't take notice before I went in, I probably wouldn't be. I mean, because we do that. Now, it also said, I'll give you some other verses that you can write down. Matthew 3:8, John 15:16. Romans 7:4.